There you go. The end. I'm sorry, man. That was, whew, wow, that was quite the laugh. Let me go ahead and put the jokes aside for 2 seconds and say this. I never thought in a million years when the winter anime season started, when you put the Promised Neverland Season 2 against Jujutsu Kaisen, against ReZero, against Attack on Titan, the show that would have popped off on my channel specifically was this one. For the drama and the ups and downs that this show has given me, I feel like all of us have united. I feel like I couldn't have seen any growth if it wasn't for this turbulent of a season that is the Promised Neverland Season 2. And for all of that, from making the bets to now reading the manga, you know, I don't know how many of you guys saw me and were like, man, we got to convince this guy to read the manga, and now I am, to where we are now. And I know really a lot of people are genuinely upset. I know a lot of people are waiting for that reboot. I know a lot of people hit me up on my Goldy Pond video and they're like, look at the preview for episode 11, and there's like the Goldy Pond Easter egg because we see a Goldy Pond literally. And then they even show us the dragon from the Kovitala arc. I'm totally butchering that. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's some Easter eggs. But is there a season 3? No. It looks like the story is wrapped up. And when you break the episode in a bare surface scratch level, let's openly admit, or I can admit, if you just saw the episode as is, and you had no other context, you look at this like, okay, the bad guy killed himself. The kids are going to rescue all the other children from the mass-produced farms. And the queen and the nobility, well, we'll get to them a little bit later. But you know what? Everyone is back to the human world. Phil, at least it's confirmed in this episode, Phil has drip, right? So, well, Phil got drip and everything with Phil, I think we can all agree, high-fiving each other. He's probably the best part of this show. And everyone lives happily ever after, right? Can we all agree with that? So on the bare surface, it's a fine episode. But now, let's actually put that shit aside and let's actually talk about what makes the episode now bad. Okay, there's going to be a lot of minor nitpicks here and there, but there's some huge revelations that they just aren't even going to bother. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Peter Ratri killed his brother, felt bad about it, but he felt like there was this nobility and this responsibility that he had to upkeep. So when he killed himself, I'm glad he wasn't convinced with Emma's power of friendship speech and said, you're right, let's change the world together, because I would have been pissed off if that's what happened. He said, you know what, I am free, I know you're free, but I like the Eren Jaeger approach. Yoink, he killed himself. That was the end of that, because we found out that the kids themselves were descendants of William Minerva supporters or something like that. Not really important. So Isabella and all the other mothers decide to stay, and this is where Emma's like, nah, Mom, you know, despite you trying to kill us and put us down, we know your love and kindness was always genuine from the start, and we want you to come onto the human side and, you know, come with us. And Isabella's crying, and it's a wholesome moment, and I'm like, but that easy? All the mothers are convinced that easily to hop on over to the other side? Like, why? I don't know. Like, because we know there was no William Minerva supporters in this anime except for Isabella. So Isabella had blind faith to believe in Emma and the gang to succeed in whatever the hell they did, and that was the end of it. So when Isabella stayed, or when I thought she was going to stay, I thought she was going to say, well, you know what, Emma, we have to like sacrifice ourselves, me and all these other mothers, because we have to deal with the nobility and the queen. Speaking of which, there's a queen and nobility? Why haven't we seen any of this surfaced? Why was none of this explained? Sure, we saw like the main bad guy from season 1. You guys know what I'm talking about, like in that office dinner scene, and we're like, oh, that's the main bad guy. I wonder what's going to happen with him in season 2. We don't really see him until the final episode, and I think we saw him back in episode 3 with Isabella. I don't know, not really important. Who's the queen? The queen clearly got the notification that, yeah, somewhere in Gracefield Farm, these kids escaped and we gotta do something about it. But you know what? Let's not worry about it. That's bad writing, people. Speaking of Isabella, I like how there was not really an emotional moment between Isabella and Ray. Ray just said, hey, Isabella, even if you lived a shitty life, that doesn't mean you can't atone for the present and the future. So that's why I'm going to help Emma and all of her friends. And I'm like, that's it? Not, hey mom, how you doing? No hug scene between Isabella and Ray? Okay, that's whatever. With Phil being the emotional thing that everyone has been rooting for, I guess we didn't get that Phil and Norman interaction. Like, oh my god, Norman is alive. He was alive the whole time. I would have loved to have seen Phil hugging Norman. That would have been nice. Oh, what about the cure? Okay, so I guess all the kids are going to the human world, and we'll talk about the human world in a second. And what about the kids who were drugged and that were going to die? They just went to the human world and that was it? They didn't have, like, there wasn't a quick 2-second scene where everyone is taking their vaccination shots and now they're cured? I mean, I guess Norman and Barbara and the rest of that crew got cured. Okay, we never really spoke about that. Speaking of the human world, wasn't it established when Sonju told Emma and Ray, hey, there is a human world, but if you go to the human world, there's a good chance that they're just going to murder you on the spot because they need you kids to stay in the demon world for the human side to live happily ever after. But what happened? Phil and the rest of the kids, they went to the human side, and it looked like everyone welcomed them with arms wide open, either in Los Angeles or New York or whatever major city you want to say. And I guess all the kids are happy. And you know, there's a montage of them going to school. Phil, of course, has the drip. You know, I mentioned that before, but you know, I gotta mention it again. And do the people in the human world even know that there's a demon world? It seems like they're just so relaxed that I wish there would have been something with that, but it's the final episode, so whatever. Mujika tells everyone, I'm going to help you, Emma, on this quest to save all the mass-produced kids in the demon world, and, you know, I don't know, I'm going to do something special with my blood. I know why Mujika's blood is special, but like, what makes Mujika herself so special? I feel like maybe it was answered, but sorta not really. And even if it's answered sorta not really, why am I asking you guys, why is Mujika's blood special? Or is it not special, sorta not really? Wow, what is happening right now? They really speed blitzed this episode. I mean, I guess the best part was learning a little bit about Peter and the backstory and, you know, the children and the descendants and all of that, and why William Minerva himself, or James Rattray, felt guilty and why he wanted to help these children. Besides that, when you actually just think, if you've been watching this series, this is the Promised Neverland legacy. Reading the manga, I'm on chapter 119, 120. Don't worry, there's still going to be Promised Neverland manga videos I'm going to put out. I'm probably going to put out 2 or 3 more, but this is the anime's legacy. It's crazy how I think everyone can agree season 1 with just this thriller, lightning in the bottle. And I know a lot of people want to shit on season 2, and rightfully so, but I want to let it be known and clear that I defended the first half because I didn't read the source material. And even when things were sped up a bit, I'm like, okay, hold on, let's see where they can go with it. But every episode, I mean, with the exception of Norman's flashback, everything was just kinda quickly paced. I think we can all agree here, this show needed more seasons. Why it only got 2 seasons? It seems like maybe the mangaka he was contractually obliged to do it. And because maybe the Promised Neverland manga ending was so polarizing, he was like, well, what's the point in doing even more seasons of the anime if we're going to get to this end point that no one's going to like? At the end of the day, we can only speculate.